What is up, my Patreon friends? This month, what I'm going to do is break down the basses from my hand crushed by a mallet flip. So let's just go ahead and give this track a little bit of a play and jump right into it. We'll start back at the build here. All right, so those are the basses on drop one. I'll break them each down individually, and if we got a little time, I'll do the drop two basses as well. I think I got to go back a version or two to actually get to these basses. All right, we are back, baby, and here are all the basses in all their MIDI glory, with the exception of this old bass one that I mentioned before. I screwed it up, and I had to go back to, I think version 5 or something and rescue the better sounding version of it. But let's just go ahead and crack open this first bass. So I'll come back to this one. It's really basic and simple. If I open up this serum, all it is a sine wave. That's it. And this sine wave has a little bit of distortion. Actually, it's got the most crank. Oh no, it's bypassed. There's no distortion in here at all. Easy enough. I'm just taking this and chorusing the highs, which is probably not doing anything anyway on a sine wave like this. So pretty much I'm just using this for a sine wave. Where this sound really comes to life is by this berserk distortion. And how this thing works is pretty much what I'll do is just come in here and go, let me grab another one so I don't screw that one up. Yeah, it's from Waves, I guess, but it's got this berserk mode in it, which if I turn on berserk and turn the density up, kind of creates weird different types of wave folding. And it has all these different characters as well that have different sounds. I really love this distortion unit. It's pretty sick. I just found a setting that I really loved on it. And then after that, I added an OTT. The main reason why I added this was not necessarily for its tone shaping, although that is part of it for sure. But also without it, it sounds like a farty, fat, just a distorted square wave. But if I turn this on, what it's doing is it's crushing the lows down and allowing more of the highs through, and I get this kind of spiky looking bass out of it. Something like this. See how you got these spikes on this low end? That is the result of the harmonic phase shifting that's happening inside the OTT. Anyway, moving on, I've got this little texture rack. So without the texture rack, it sounds like this. And with it, gives that width and weird grit on the edges. This is a dry pass-through chain, so this is a parallel chain, one for the texture and one for just the original sound coming through. And what I'm using is the Devious Machines texture to add in a little AC hum, I guess. I love using this, and usually when I do it, I'll put the dry wet 100% to wet and then run it in a parallel chain like this so that I can add other processing after it. Like in this situation, I added this auto pan that is giving it some width, but mostly is just kind of set to a volume automation mode. So if we take a listen to just the top end, you can hear that little the flutter. It's really wide because of the auto pan. And the auto pan is what's giving it that fluttering. Then I redux the noise. to kind of soften it, I guess, and make it a little bit darker. But then I added this EQ and brightened it up again. So without the EQ and Redux, and with it. So that's all that is, just adding a little of that top end grit and texture. Then I have a Pro MB, which just is here to push the lows down. The sub was getting too loud. I threw a Gullfoss on here. I don't often use Gullfoss, but if I do, what I'll do is I'll set the crossover point so that it doesn't affect the low end. And this just kind of helps to both recover frequency areas that might be missing and to also tame parts that are a little bit too loud. Sometimes I'll use it. I use it to brighten it just a touch in this situation. Kind of a lot of brightening, actually. I liked what I did to the sound, so I included it. I then have a 3-band linear phase frequency splitter. So the reason why I'm using linear phase splitters here is because when you have a sound that is like so distorted and crushed and is sounding just like you like it, particularly if it's a bass sound, to use a non-linear phase crossover can sometimes make it sound different, like not how you want it to sound. So I often will use linear phase ones. Now, this can cause the CPU to spike much higher, but in my opinion, I think it's worth it. I think that it maintains the sound and allows me to get at different parts of it to process them independently. All I did here, though,